Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to cover the whole entire market in terms of Dow Jones, Nasdaq, S&P 500, including the economic calendar, 10-year treasury. I do post these videos daily, so double check on my channel for the latest video to see the most up-to-date information. First I'm going to go over the economic calendar, then the 10-year treasury, then I'm going to do the analysis part. So for Friday, June 7th at 8:30 a.m. we have U.S. employment report, U.S. unemployment rate, U.S. hourly wages, and then hourly wages year over year. And at 10 a.m. we have wholesale inventories, and at 3 p.m. we have consumer credit. Now, one thing to note for next week, it is quite important. We have CPI and PPI inflation numbers. So next week will be up and down, not crazy volatile, but decently volatile because, again, the market is anticipating hopefully that the Fed will cut interest rates in terms of what they were given expectations for the year when it came to more than just one interest rate cut. Now we're down to one, potentially zero. So yeah, and then the way I see it, I'm not a professional, so please do your own due diligence and research before buying and selling. But I don't think they're going to do an interest rate cut this year. I think they're just delaying it to maybe potentially give in to the whole entire market and get one interest rate cut by the end of the year, but ultimately push it to next year. But that's just my opinion. Now, in terms of the Dow Jones, there's this upward trend resistance line dating back since 2021. And you can see 1 touch point, 2 touch points. And then here it is 2 touch points, but if you zoom in, there's 2 per each one, so 4. And then upward trend support level. Now we were approaching it and we didn't necessarily get to it, but we created an upward trend support level for the most part and heading up. Now in terms of the long term for the S&P 500 and Nasdaq, it is showing to the upside. Now for the Dow Jones, it shows it's in the bearish movement heading down. So I'll show, this is the MACD line. Indicates if we're in bearish or bullish movement, and right now we're in the bearish movement. So the thing is though, for the Dow Jones, that's the only one that's still moving into the bearish movement in terms of the long term, 1 year and the 5-year chart. The Nasdaq and S&P 500 are showing upside, they're showing bullish movement. But now for the 1 month, 3 month, and 6 month, they're all showing the same thing in terms of Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and S&P 500. They're showing a slight tick to the upside and then ultimately going down. So I think pretty much tomorrow in the early parts of the day we'll be heading up, and then from there heading down if the moving MACD line in terms of movement, in terms of bearish or bullish movement, holds true. So if that's the case, we're at 38,886 points, give or take. And I think we're pretty much going to hit on the moving average right about here in this ballpark because it hits on this horizontal resistance right about here, give or take. So it's about 39,000. And when I checked, it was 39,100, give or take. But the moving average here is about 38,975 points. And then 39,044, 45 points. But with the horizontal line, it was about 39,100 points. And then if we head down, you're looking at support, which coincides a little bit with horizontal as well, about 38,500. But again, we don't know how drastic it will be. Volatility index is at 12.57, so relatively low. And then if we go in the S&P 500, which is basically, I'm going to go over the SPY, which is the ETF for S&P 500. Again, like I stated, 1 year and 5 year, so I'll show you. It's about to cross over in the bullish movement, and it does have a red tick, so that's kind of weird. But if you look at the 1 year chart, it is in the bullish movement, so it's kind of showing a more upside. And at the same time, like I've shown before for the S&P 500, dating back since 2010, which shows for the same thing for Nasdaq, but there was a false breakout. Well, not false breakout, there was a breakout in the Nasdaq, but not for the S&P 500. Upward trend resistance line, upward trend support, major crashes, upward trend support, again dating back since 2010, and we got a lot more room to grow to the upside to the upward trend 2010 resistance. Now if we go to the 3-month chart right about here for more visibility, we do have a horizontal line that acted as predominantly resistance, but I think it could act as support. And going back off of what I stated with the Dow Jones, the S&P and Nasdaq are showing for the short term a small tick to the upside and then a pullback potentially if you follow the MACD lines, and if they hold true, then ultimately I think we're probably going to be hitting about $335, $336, give or take, somewhere between there. Currently we're at $534.66. So, and if you think it's going to break higher, I use the Fibonacci scale and it showed on the upper side for tomorrow. Because I didn't go to higher levels, so I'm expecting that if it were to go high, this would be the highest. So about $539, $540, give or take. I don't think it'll go higher than that if you think it's gonna go higher than just a tick. And then if it comes to the downside in terms of support, we'll have support at the 534 because that's based off the old all-time high. and then going off these ticks right about here, 532. But ultimately, I think what potentially could happen is it could bounce off this horizontal, which is 531 and some change. But then we have the support at the 530, plus coinciding with the moving average of 531. So I think the horizontal plus the moving average 530, 531 will hold us. If it doesn't, then and it could be 529 and some change, because it's constantly at 530, like I've covered in my past videos. That was quite a bit of resistance, and we saw 529 and some change constantly. But then it would trickle down to these moving averages right about here, 528 and 527. I don't think we're going to go lower than that personally for tomorrow. But if we did, we obviously have support at the 525/524. But I don't think we're going to go lower than, personally, I don't think it's 530, 531. We're going to go lower then. But if we do, we trickle down to, like I stated, the 528 and 527. Now for the QQQ, which is the ETF for Nasdaq, like I stated, with the same thing with S&P 500, upward trend resistance line. The reason I'm covering for this one is there's not much room to the upside, so it could kind of close us off. Upward trend resistance line since 2010, did break out since 2020 to 2022. An upward trend support level right about here. You can see we went up to it, got underneath it, went up to it, got knocked down, went up to it again, potentially try to cross over to it. And it's showing the same thing again, 1 year and 5 year chart, just like the S&P 500, showing more upside. But for the 1 month, 3 month, 6 month, showing a tick to the upside / a pullback if you follow the MACD line and if it holds true. So if that's the case, then I think we would be going up to basically, well, this one's a little bit different. So technically the all-time high could be the uptick, and that's it. So about $465, give or take. We're at 463 and 37 cents. But I think what could happen potentially is this upward trend resistance line dating back since 2010. So you're looking about $467, $468, and then get pulled back down to potentially 462 maybe. And I don't think it would be lower than that if it were to go that high. But if it were only to go to 465, then I could see us getting pulled back to the previous all-time high, which is 461, 462, then 460 ultimately. And then we would see support off the moving average, 458. Will we go lower? We could, potentially, obviously. But then that would combine with the upward trend support / resistance, if I could show it visibly right about here correctly. This is upward trend. Oh, okay. That's what it needs to do. It needs to adjust right about here. So dating back since when it was holding true fully, about November of 2023, resistance, support, 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 resistance, a bunch of times resistance right about here. You can see a little bit of touch points here too, not crazy, but it collides with the moving average and so on and so forth, and you're looking at support about the 455. I honestly believe that we would hold up on 455, especially since the volatility index is quite low. It's not really spiking up, but yeah, we'll see. Anything's possible. Again, I do post these videos daily, so if you want to be notified when I do upload them, consider following on X and YouTube. And if you did find this video beneficial, drop a like. Thanks, helps out the channel, so thank you so much. I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Peace.